I wasn't sure that I'd ever visit Vietnam. It hadn't been on the top of my list to visit. I knew it was good value, and everyone who came back said it was beautiful and that I should go. We landed at Ho Chi Minh City and then we flew to Nha Trang. This was our hotel room in Nha Trang. This was my son and I. Novotel upgraded us so that we had a view to the sea, and that made such a difference to our holiday. It was an amazing place to stay. During the time there was a typhoon out in the Philippines, and the waves got bigger and bigger during the time we were there, and the sound seemed to pound into our room. It was a constant presence for us, but exciting and lovely. And part of this place, energy was part of this place. This used to be a favourite holiday resort for the American Army during the war in Vietnam. And now it's a famous and favourite holiday place for the Russian people to come and have their holidays. So, unlike many places, English was not a mainstay in terms of signage. There would be Vietnamese and there would be Russian. So it was challenging, but it was fun. The roads were crazy. There were no rules, or there seemed to be none. The idea was that if you were predictable and walked in a slow pace, people would try and avoid you. And the massive people and cars made that a little bit scary. We would often get behind other Russian people because they seemed to know what to do better than we did. The streets were full of coconuts. They were full of unusual things like this, where this was a marketing to the Russians, the 007, and sites like this where you saw half of a crocodile being eaten on the spit. Fruit made up for it. It was beautiful, and I would go to Nha Trang any day. It had its very relaxing parts, and it had its very beautiful fresh coconuts, which is the first time I've ever tasted such fresh coconut, and also dragon fruit, which I fell in love with. It is the most healthy fruit that I really know of. Reduces cholesterol. This is my son Sean, and if it had not been for him, I would not probably have managed getting across there. This was us sitting in a restaurant one evening towards the end of our stay, and that was a rooftop restaurant and had an amazing view over Nha Trang. I found the Vietnamese people gentle, quiet, accepting, and kind. And I was quite inspired by them. This is the fruit that was around. When we had to leave, we got on a train and went up to Hoi An. Hoi An was a magical place. The train was extremely uncomfortable and difficult, but getting to Hoi An made it worthwhile. It was an ancient city, and there were only bikes, no cars in that city. Outside of the ancient city there were cars, but inside just bikes, and the buildings had not been touched. They were strung with coloured lanterns, and you can learn to make lanterns there. You can do cooking courses there. It's full of ancient buildings, and you get a ticket which has tear-off sections that you can use for each site, and each site you visit gets money from those tickets that you bought to keep the upkeep. Great idea. There were lots of dragons on roofs, so look up. And there was a river that ran through Hoi An. And you really could have been at any time with some of the shapes of the boats. They were absolutely graceful. The rice paddies surrounded the town. There were water buffalo in the fields. And in this river you can see a circle where they're actually farming oysters. Christmas was everywhere. We went on Christmas and decorations were everywhere we looked. They even dressed their little children in Santa suits. As I said, the boats were so graceful. So I really did love Hoi An, and I think most people who visit it do. This is coming out of the Japanese Bridge, and that's in the Japanese Bridge, an artefact. The Japanese Bridge is not a museum piece. People walk across it, give their token to help with its upkeep. This is a typical street in Hoi An, in the old city. And as you can see, again, dragons on roofs. It was really at night that Hoi An came into its own. That's when the bridges lit up. That's when you could float little paper cups with a candle in them to remember people into the river. And all of these lights made it so magical. You could go on a boat along that river. That's the Japanese Bridge at night. So it's a place not to be missed. And when there, you can get clothes made, you can get shoes made, and I bought artifacts and art products in that store. It was a magical store. We went to an excursion to a place called My Son. It was discovered in the 50s, and there were ancient temples in the jungle. The tour cost us $16 for the day, including lunch. And we were driven out in a bus, driven to the site in a virtual golf cart. And there it was explained to us that Hoi An had been part of the ancient Silk Route. So I promptly went back, ordered myself a silk dress, and I also bought myself a Vietnamese hat, which is an extremely handy item in spitting rain. We had Christmas Day there. This was our Christmas lunch, a buffet where we had so much. And then we went to Hoi An. After we went to Hoi An, we went to Hanoi. This is by the lake. That building could be in London, but then it looks a bit American and a bit French. This building looks very Vietnamese. So this was your experience when you were there. There's a place with a tiger carved on it, and a lake with the amazing red bridge that is so famous. People doing Zumba by the lake, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, thousands of people walk around that lake. And yet, just as you've got this area of Hanoi, you have other areas, like this area, which is the actual French area of Hanoi and French Quarter. So it's basically so like Paris. And as we swing around, you'll be able to see that there is actually an opera house that the French built when they colonised Hanoi. So Hanoi is full of beautiful foods such as bakeries and la patisseries and beautiful Vietnamese food. They were building a big stage for New Year. Likewise, in our hotel, Christmas decorations were outstanding. This was the Light Hotel. It was close to the lake with its restaurants. Around the lake with its restaurants, there was this little place to get the coconut oil coffee, and they put post-it notes on the walls. Go to the water puppet theatre, an important thing to do. This was the Temple of Literature. It was a standout place for me to visit. It had courtyards that you walked through that made you think of going further in terms of knowledge, a journey. There were ponds with lilies in them, and I think that was to reflect as you walked, on knowledge. There were different gates, and this was the front gate, and the instruction was get off your horse, and that was about everyone coming down to the same level as the learned people that they were visiting. This place was established by Confucius, and I doubt that we'd have universities today had we not had places like this that valued learning. It's really a prototype of a university. And having gone to university through my life, I'm really grateful that in history this was valued and developed. These were shrines not only to Confucius's parents, but also to generals who had achieved a lot. And a lot of those things that they value were social achievements. This is the turtle, a golden turtle, and turtles represent longevity and prosperity and wisdom. This is the amazing architecture. Thank goodness, although it did sustain one bomb in this site, it mainly survived and was just restored. You can see how old it is with the trees and the roots, and then there's those bonchoy miniature trees. I think everyone who walked in there was in awe. There was no loud noises. There were people whispering. There were people just taking it all in. These were the gowns that some of the Tudors wore, again silk. And we went to Ho Chi Minh compound, his tomb, and that car was given to the French. It amused me because I had a car like that. It's my first car. This was our hotel room in the Light Hotel. It was an amazing hotel and I would recommend it. It was good value for money. The service was excellent. There was a bar halfway up the building that was just beautiful, and there was a swimming pool on top of the building. Unfortunately, because of the weather, I couldn't use that, but in the summer that would be lovely.